Your heart just stopped. The mechanical pump in your chest has failed. The 5 liters of blood that were circulating through your veins a fraction of a second ago have instantly gone completely still. Your blood pressure drops to absolute zero.
Freeze.
This is second zero of your death. And what happens inside your body over the next 60 seconds is something modern science is only just beginning to decipher. Because empirical data now suggests a terrifying paradox. The exact moment you die might be the most intensely alive your brain has ever been. Let us start at the exact millisecond of cardiac arrest. The very first thing that happens when your heart stops is absolutely nothing. At least, nothing you can physically perceive. Without a functioning pump, there is no blood flow and no oxygen delivery to your vital organs. But your brain does not know that yet. For the first 10 seconds, your neurological hardware is still running smoothly on the residual oxygen trapped inside the stagnant blood of your skull. Your neurons are still firing at their normal frequency. Your ongoing thoughts, whatever they were in that final moment, are still processing. You are still, technically, you. But that biological window is closing rapidly. At exactly the 10-second mark, the architecture of your consciousness begins to collapse. Your brain is the most oxygen-hungry organ in your entire body, consuming roughly 20% of your total oxygen supply at any given moment. It is the first to register that the supply chain has been severed. To preserve its core functions, the brain initiates an emergency shutdown protocol. It cuts power to the cerebral cortex, the outer layer responsible for conscious thought, logic, and spatial awareness. This is the precise moment you lose consciousness. Your eyes permanently stop processing visual data. Your auditory nerves stop sending electrical signals to register sound. From the outside, you look completely empty. The machine has powered down. But from the inside, the data tells a radically different story. In 2023, a team of neuroscientists at the University of Michigan published a study that fractured our entire biological understanding of death. They attached continuous electroencephalogram monitors to 4 comatose patients as they were taken off life support, tracking their brainwaves as they died. The medical assumption was simple. Without oxygen, the brain would experience a quiet, linear fade to black. The electrical signals would slowly wind down until the monitor flatlined. That is not what the machines recorded. In 2 of the 4 dying patients, within seconds of losing oxygen, the brain did not shut down. It exploded. A massive, sustained spike of high-frequency electrical activity surged across the dying brain. These were not random death spasms. These were gamma waves. Gamma oscillations are the fastest, most complex brain waves we possess. They are directly associated with hyperconsciousness, intense concentration, deep memory retrieval, and lucid dreaming. And this electrical storm was not scattered. It was highly organized and specifically concentrated in a region called the temporoparietal occipital junction. In neurobiology, this exact junction is the processing center responsible for visual perception, memory integration, and out-of-body experiences. The lead researcher described the electrical surge as exponentially higher than the waking baseline. The dying brain was operating in overdrive. This neurological data point forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality. For decades, patients resuscitated from clinical death have reported identical psychological phenomena. Blinding lights, the distinct sensation of floating near the ceiling, looking down at their own lifeless body, and a feeling of absolute mathematical peace. And then, there is the life review. Pop culture tells us that your life flashes before your eyes in a sequence of grand achievements, your wedding, your graduation, your finest hours. But clinical reports from survivors dictate something entirely different. It is never the major milestones. It is the irrelevant, forgotten micro-moments. It is the texture of a carpet in a childhood bedroom, the exact sound of a bicycle chain clicking on a Tuesday afternoon decades ago. One young man, successfully resuscitated after severe cardiac arrest, reported a hyper-vivid memory of a white cat sitting on a specific wooden staircase. He had zero conscious recollection of this place. After recovering, he described the architectural layout of the staircase and the cat to his mother. She confirmed that they had lived in that exact apartment building next door to a neighbor with a white cat. They moved out of that building when he was exactly 14 months old. This single case study shatters the conventional understanding of human memory. It suggests that the brain never actually deletes anything. Every sensory input, every face, every shadow you have ever perceived is permanently encoded on your biological hard drive. And in the final electrical surge before death, the brain completely bypasses its own security protocols and unlocks the entire archive simultaneously. We do not know why the brain spends its last reserves of energy playing back a lifetime of meaningless data, but the monitors prove it is happening. While the brain burns through its final electrical storm, the rest of the physical body is entering a catastrophic failure state. At 30 seconds past cardiac arrest, all 37 trillion cells in your body are suffocating. To survive the total lack of oxygen, the cells automatically switch their energy production mechanism from aerobic to anaerobic respiration. This biochemical backup system keeps the cells alive for a few more minutes, but it has a toxic byproduct. It floods your tissue with lactic acid. As the acid levels spike, the muscular system loses its structural integrity. Your muscles, completely disconnected from the dead command center in your skull, go entirely slack. Your jaw drops open, unable to fight gravity. The micro muscles holding your eyelids shut simply release. Your pupils dilate to their absolute maximum capacity and become permanently fixed. The biological lenses in your eyes are still physically intact, capable of capturing light, but there is no longer a conscious entity behind them to decode the image. Or is there? Dr. Sam Parnia, a leading resuscitation researcher at New York University, has spent 20 years running the largest clinical trial on human consciousness during cardiac arrest, known as the AWARE studies. Across 25 hospitals, his team tracked patients who flatlined and were successfully brought back. The data from the 2023 AWARE-2 study is deeply unsettling. Roughly 40% of all cardiac arrest survivors reported a distinct perception of consciousness while their hearts were stopped. Approximately 20% experienced highly structured thoughts and clear logic while clinically dead. But most terrifying of all, around 3% of patients reported full visual and auditory awareness. They could see the doctors, they could hear the defibrillator charging, they could perfectly recall the conversations happening in the trauma room. They were observing reality while their monitors displayed a flat line and their brains showed zero detectable electrical activity to the outside world. A heavily documented phenomenon among these returners is the distinct presence of entities. Patients consistently report seeing deceased relatives, parents or grandparents, standing in the room, acting as guides. Some patients report being explicitly told by these figures that it was not their time, forcing them to return to the physical body. Whether this is a final, highly complex hallucination deployed by a dying brain to cushion the terror of non-existence, or evidence of a consciousness unanchored from biology, science cannot definitively answer. But we know what happens next. At exactly 60 seconds, the biological damage crosses a critical threshold. The human body is now in a state of absolute limbo. The cells are seriously damaged, but the destruction is not yet permanent. If a defibrillator delivers a massive electrical shock right now, the biological clock can be reset. Human brain cells can survive in a vacuum of oxygen for roughly 4 to 6 minutes before the physical structure permanently degrades. At the 1-minute mark, your body temperature has barely dropped. Your skin begins to pale slightly as the blood drains from the superficial capillaries and pools at the lowest point of gravity. But deep inside your tissue, a microscopic horror is beginning. The lactic acid buildup weakens the protective membranes inside your cells. The lysosomes, the cellular waste disposal units, rupture. They leak highly corrosive enzymes directly into the cell. This is the initiation of autolysis, self-digestion. Your own biological machinery is beginning to eat itself from the inside out. At 60 seconds, the cells are still whole. They are waiting. If the emergency room team restores the blood flow, this process instantly reverses. The body rebuilds. But if no one is coming, if there is no shock and no chest compressions, then this minute was the final minute of your existence in the physical universe. And the data is clear. The brain does not waste this final minute shutting down. It spends it unlocking everything. The patients who return from this void never come back caring about their bank accounts or their professional status. They come back obsessed with time. Because when the gamma wave hits and the archive is forced open, the brain ignores the promotions and the empty victories. It forces you to watch the meaningless Tuesday afternoons, the quiet moments you thought no one was recording. Your biological hardware recorded all of it, and in the final 60 seconds of your life, it makes sure you watch it one last time.